Hi, this is Jack Stanley, and I wanted to share with you an amazing discovery that took place in the 1970s. It was quite by chance. You know, the world has changed an awful lot since the 1970s, and I used to go haunt bookstores and old shops to see what I could find. And you know, the old bookstores of long ago are really very much of long ago, because ever since the days of the internet and Kindles and things like that, books are slowly but surely vanishing from our sphere. Of course, it won't happen that fast, but in coming generations, books are going to be looked upon as old artifacts, very much like typewriters, perhaps. But there'll always be some of us that will want the old books, just like I'm sure there's people who want the old typewriters. Well, I was in Boonton, New Jersey, and the year was 1978. And I went to a bookstore that had recently opened, and it was run by a hippie-ish kind of fella. I don't remember his name anymore. He had blonde hair. I think it was called Ye Old Bookshop. I think that's probably there's 150 stores in this country called Ye Old Bookshop. And, well, I was going through there, and he had some fascinating books. And something caught my eye. I'm going to see if I can lift this up, because we're going to take this apart. Okay, first off, this is the front of it. If you look carefully, it says, "In Memoriam, William McKinley." And it dates it at September the 14th, 1901. Now, for those of us who know our history, or even have taken a few classes in school, we know that William McKinley was a president. And we also know that William McKinley was assassinated. He was shot on the 6th of September, if I'm not mistaken, and died on the 14th of September. Well, I pulled this book down, which took a little effort because it's very heavy. It weighs about 30 pounds. It's real thick leather. And I couldn't quite figure out exactly what it was initially. And then I started to go through it. And what did I find? It was a scrapbook of everything dealing with the McKinley assassination from the time he was shot on September the 6th till he was buried. It's quite an incredible book. I want to show you some of the pieces. Unfortunately, the spine has collapsed. But take a look at this. This is quite incredible. You go to the following page. This was all done professionally, by the way. And it, as I mentioned, goes through every bit of the process of the shooting, the assassination, the capture of the assassin, etc. Just countless bits of information. And I would venture to say probably about 150 pages of this, which is really quite incredible. I'm going to put some of this here because I want to get over here. And then, of course, the president dies, and there's lots of photographs and pictures in here of what happened. Keep everything in order here. You know, more photographs and newspapers. And I'll continue here. This is September the 21st. More things dealing with the funeral. Once again over here. All done professionally, as I mentioned. And as it goes along, it continues along here. It has mementos of the funeral, his burial, about his house, more photographs, and the like, where his parents are buried. And this goes on, and you know, it's impossible to show all this to you. And it just continues and continues. And then we start having the pieces of the mourning cloth for the president's funeral. And other pieces. Now, I want to put this all back together here. Here is the death announced. Dead. 2:15. This is a one-of-a-kind item, and I didn't realize how much of a one-of-a-kind item it was until I decided to look up a few things here. Now on this large leather book, which, as I said, is very heavy, it has some names. Now in 1978, when I purchased this, which by the way, I paid $75 for this in 1978, and it took me several weeks to come up with enough money to pay for it. I'm very glad I did. Now, what is that, 38 years ago? Here it is. And it says here, the names that are on the front here, which are somewhat faded. It says, presented to William Whiting. And I was sitting there going, who the hell is William Whiting? And it said, presented by Charles E. Locke. Equally, I'm like going, who is Charles E. Locke? Well, it turns out that William Whiting was a very dear friend of William McKinley's and had a house in Massachusetts, and that's where McKinley would often go. It was called like the Massachusetts White House. And who was Charles E. Locke? He was the minister who officiated the funeral of the president in Buffalo, New York. So this was put together by the minister who officiated the funeral for the president, and then made up perhaps a few of these, I'm not sure, and presented them to McKinley's closest friends. Or maybe he just did it for William Whiting. I don't know. I have never seen one of these. I went to the McKinley library and in Canton. I talked about this. They said, we've never seen anything like that. Never heard of it. Didn't know it existed. Maybe someone seeing this might have an idea. But what I am thinking of is that Charles E. Locke, who also wrote a lot of books and was not a big fan of Mary Baker Eddy, by the way. He wrote a lot of disparaging things about her. Was quite a famous minister, writer, and speaker. And it's very fascinating that he put this thing together. And so this is a memorial to William McKinley, listing all the information of what happened and presented to one of McKinley's greatest friends. Now, I'd love to show more of this, and I've thought of perhaps even finding a place where it can be displayed and shared with the public, because this is a very unique piece with all of the information about the assassination. And for 38 years, I have held on to it. Interesting thing I must mention, and I'm sure a lot of people realize this who understand history, when it comes to historic objects like this, we are only what we might call ourselves, like guardians for a little while. We're babysitters for historic objects, for history, waiting for the next generation who will take this and look after it as well as we have. But I thought I would share this because I think it's really amazing. It's an incredible piece of history, and one that I really should share with everyone. Thank you.